Hi, my name's Eric. I'll be reading you selections from today's Cape Cod Times. Today's date is Monday, August 3rd of 2026. We'll start with the weather, as we always do, and across the Cape and Islands today, breezy with showers and a heavier thunderstorm expected. A high of 77 in the afternoon, a low of 69 in the overnight with some rain and thunderstorms. Overnight as well, it'll be breezy and humid. Tomorrow, also humid. It's humid all week this week, folks. On Tuesday, cloudy and humid with a passing shower. High of 82, a low of 67. It will feel warmer than 82 for sure. On Wednesday, rather cloudy and humid with a few showers. High of 79, a low of 70. On Thursday, it warms up again with a high of 85 and a low of 70. Cloudy and humid with thunderstorms. On Friday, mostly cloudy and uncomfortably humid. High of 84, low of 72. So while these numbers aren't very impressive in terms of how high they're going, there is tremendous moisture in the air. It is very humid, very uncomfortable. Keep those air conditioners on. And if you do go outside, make sure you hydrate. The sun will rise at 5:37 a.m. today. It'll set at 7:57 p.m. We'll have 14 hours and 20 minutes of daylight. Now heading to the front of the paper, where the news, of course, is kept, as well as where the lottery results used to be. And we read these lottery results because, well, somebody asked for them. If there's something you would like read to people who are blind or print disabled, you can give us a call at 508-539-2030, or you can email us at info@audiblelocalledger.org, and we'll consider reading it. And if you miss any of the information we share in our readings for the blind, you can always go to audiblelocalledger.org. It's a fully disability-compliant website. If you click on the Listen tab, under All Reads to the Blind, you'll find 150 chronologically arranged readings, and the most recent are at the top, so you can catch up on anything you might have missed. We also keep a wide variety of periodicals and literature up there for your listening pleasure. And radio plays are under the Ledger Actors Workshop. We have a new one, Meet the Bickersons, which just came out this weekend. Very funny, very clever. Two terrific actors who are volunteers perform that. And our shopping guides are kept up there so you can find out what's on sale at the supermarket. All of that free for people who are blind or print disabled at audiblelocalledger.org. But for the lottery results, we go to masslottery.com because the Cape Cod Times goes to press too early to give you the latest results. If you ask for them, you certainly deserve the latest. So for the numbers game of Sunday, August 2nd of 2026, in the midday, the winning numbers were 7, 7, 2, 8. Again, yesterday's midday winning numbers in the numbers game, 7, 7, 2, 8. In the evening, the winning numbers were 7, 8, 9, 0. Again, last night's evening winning numbers, 7, 8, 9, 0. Good luck to all who play, and remember us if you win. On the cover of today's Cape Cod Times, Provincetown delays vote on Boobalas by the Bay remake by Denise Coffey. Provincetown Planning Board members need more information before granting special permits for a restaurant, hotel, and condominium development on the site of Boobalas by the Bay, a long-standing waterfront restaurant in the west end of town. Developer Victor DePaulo's attorney, Robin Reed, asked for a continuance at a public hearing July 30th, following a preliminary vote by the board indicating the project did not have enough votes for an approval. The hearing was continued to August 13th. The property at 185 Commercial Street is owned currently by 183 Commercial Realty Trust, with John Yingling as trustee. The restaurant is open for its last season, according to a Facebook post. The proposed development would replace the seasonal 162-seat restaurant and 32 parking spaces with a year-round, accessible 100-seat restaurant and lounge, a street-side patio, a year-round hotel with 9 rooms, including an accessible room, 2 affordable housing units, and 8 market-rate dwelling units. There would be a public accessible garden area on the harbor side of the property. Reed said 32 parking spaces would be reduced to 6 for the condominiums on site. One of the affordable units would be available to income earners at 100% of the area median income, and the second at 120% of the area median income. She estimated that the tax revenue that would be generated from the project would be $300,000. What does the developer want? From the planning board, the developer is seeking multiple special permits, a site plan review, multiple waivers, and bonus incentives for providing 2 of 10 units as affordable housing, according to town planner Thaddeus Soul. The incentives would allow the project to have a full 3 stories and be taller than bylaws allow. The project needs a special permit for the construction of a multifamily dwelling of more than 4 units in the town center commercial district, permission to develop property with an increase in residential units greater than 3, and permission to develop property with more than 2,000 square feet of new commercial space. The applicant also seeks permission to waive density requirements for commercial accommodations, a front yard setback of 7 feet, a density bonus for 2,038 square feet, and a height bonus for a 3-story structure at 39 feet 2 inches. The project must also fulfill the requirements of the state's Chapter 91 regulations that require waterfront developments to provide public benefits, and it still needs approval from some other town boards. What were the concerns from the planning board? Well, at its meeting on June 22nd, the planning board requested the applicant make 4 changes to the proposal. Those minor changes were uploaded on July 20th, according to Reed, but Vice Chair Mia Kligot-Parrott and member Michael Gosher wanted to give the public a full 10 days to comment on the changes. Gosher said that the proposal was incomplete and missing information, including a lighting plan. He read a list of his concerns. Reed argued that the changes were very limited and that the board had substantially everything they needed. She said the job before the board was to decide whether or not the public, social, and economic benefits to the town outweigh the adverse effects, such as congestion and environmental degradation. I think we have met that standard, she said. The preliminary vote on July 30th was 3-2. Special permits require a supermajority. 4 members have to approve them. Reed said the applicant was under time constraints and asked what additional information the applicant could provide. Generally, board members expressed support for the project. They asked for a lighting plan, clearer signage on pathways, renderings with dimensions that give a better idea of what the seawall will look like from the hotel, and a possible redesign of the public space. The next headline on the front page of today's Cape Cod Times: 2 vacancies are open as Barnstable Town Councilor resigns, by Heather McCarran. 2 vacancies have now opened up on the Barnstable Town Council, with a special election planned in October. Precinct 1 Town Councilor Gordon Starr has resigned from the council, creating a vacancy in the seat representing Barnstable Village, Comaquid, and portions of Hyannis and Centerville. In a July 29th letter to constituents, Starr wrote, "I want you to know that it is with a heavy heart that I am resigning my position as your Barnstable Town Councilor. Because of medical reasons, I can no longer serve you as I have in the past." He also encouraged residents to consider running for the seat and thanked them for electing him twice to work with and for them on the town's top governing board. "Representing you is an important responsibility that I have valued and enjoyed for the past 7 years," he wrote, adding that serving this remarkable community has been so fulfilling. Starr was first elected to the council in 2019 and was re-elected in 2023. A retired science teacher and environmental educator, he's been known on the council for his focus on water quality, environmental protection, wastewater management, Route 6A pedestrian safety, and infrastructure improvements. Starr's resignation comes a little more than a month after the death of fellow town councilor Felicia Penn, who represented Precinct 13. She died June 15th, following a long battle with brain cancer at age 73. Penn participated remotely in council meetings until the end of May, as members considered issues ranging from affordable housing initiatives and community preservation projects to electric vehicle infrastructure, appointments to town boards and commissions, and referrals related to the town's fiscal 2027 budget. Town Clerk Ann Quirk said a special election has been scheduled for October 13th to fill both Starr's Precinct 1 seat and Penn's Precinct 13 seat. Since Starr's and Penn's terms extend in November of 2027, and given that the council is the town's top legislative body, she said that the positions will need to be filled sooner than later. Those elected to take over from Starr and Penn will complete the term, Quirk said. If they then wish to remain on the council beyond November of 2027, they will need to seek re-election during the town's regular municipal election cycle, she said. Moving inside the paper as we keep it local, there's an editorial note, Sandwich Survey Canceled. A story that was published on July 29th in our paper about a survey of Sandwich townspeople and their thoughts on short-term rentals needs to be updated. The town of Sandwich closed down the survey on July 30th due to an error that could have affected the results, according to a statement from the town. The survey will be revised and reissued in approximately 1 month, the town said. Police investigate 6-vehicle crash on Route 6 in Sandwich by Gwen Friss. 4 people were taken to the hospital Saturday morning after a 6-vehicle crash on Route 6 in Sandwich involving 18 people. 1 person was trapped in a vehicle and required extrication, according to a written statement from Sandwich Fire Chief John Burke. The accident happened just before 9 a.m. Saturday at mile marker 62 between the old exits 3 and 4. The cars were traveling eastbound on the highway, coming on Cape Cod on a Saturday morning, which is normally a high-volume traffic day. On arrival, units found 6 vehicles, including 2 vans and 2 SUVs, Burke wrote. The fire chief said 2 additional ambulances from Sandwich, Bourne, and West Barnstable helped people at the scene, taking 4 to Cape Cod Hospital in Hyannis. All 18 people were assessed, Burke wrote, but 14 refused treatment. The Mid-Cape Highway accident is being investigated by the Mass State Police, who couldn't be reached for comment on Sunday morning. Heading to the Cape and Islands section of the Cape Cod Times today, Dennis restaurant owner Janet Barbado dies, remembered as True Class Act by Gwen Friss. Janet Hart Barbado, co-owner of the Ocean House restaurant in the nearby Three Seasons Resort, died July 22nd at age 74. There'll be a public celebration of her life from 3 to 6 p.m. on Monday, August 3rd at the Ocean House Restaurant at 425 Old Wharf Road in Dennisport, according to an obituary appearing in the Cape Cod Times. Her attention to detail and love of beauty and fashion led her to immense professional success as a driving force behind decades of leadership at the Ocean House Restaurant, Barbado's obituary reads. Janet's dedication to the business was surpassed only by her devotion to her children, Carl and Christopher, and her 1 grandchild, Colin. Barbado was survived by her daughter and business partner, Carrie Ann Hart, her son, Christopher Ryan Barbado, and her grandson, Colin Reardon. In addition to the businesses run by the mother-daughter team for decades, Barbado was an advocate for autism awareness and education. Christopher was born with profound autism, and ensuring his care, quality of life, and well-being became Janet's highest priority. She also used the platform of the Ocean House to raise substantial funds, promote awareness, and support families also affected by autism, her obituary reads. On June 1st of 2008, Barbado and dozens of other volunteers gathered 500 people under a tent next to the Ocean House restaurant and raised in one night $104,000 for the then 3-year-old group Autism Speaks. The culmination of the event for all present came when Christopher went to the podium and sang to his mother in a marvelous voice that she later said she never realized he had. He had been taught the song especially for the occasion by a committee member. Ned Mira wrote that in a 2008 column for the Cape Cod Times op-ed page. Paul McCormick spoke about how generous and supportive Barbado was in the Dennis restaurant community, always willing to lend a hand if clean linens ran short, or to lend a box of produce if he ran down, and if he ran out down the street at the Ebb Tide restaurant he operated until 2021. McCormick remembered how his 12-year-old son took one of his business cards, wrote in a comma and Junior on it, and delivered it to Barbado, saying he was hoping to valet park cars for the Ocean House when he was old enough to get his license. She hired him as promised, and still had the business card when McCormick last saw her a year ago. Paul's twin sister also got a job at Ocean House, and still works there as a manager, McCormick said. They, meaning the Barbados, are good members of the Chamber, Lois Andre, Dennis Chamber of Commerce's executive director, said, and she's done some good things for the community over the years. Barbado was also known for her iconic sense of style. Andre remembers feeling highly praised when Barbado complimented her shoes at a function they both attended. The Ocean House Restaurant Facebook page had a photo this week of Barbado, stylishly dressed on a shopping trip to Boston. Fierce, resilient, formidable, loyal, chic, compassionate, devoted. A true class act, and our matriarch, the Facebook post read. Keeping it local, we'll move to the sports page, the Cape Cod Baseball League, and updates for the weekend. Guzman's Summer Surge is Turning Heads by Adam Kirkjian in Brewster. For Armani Guzman, he knows he has the skills to be a professional baseball player. What he's trying to do now is hone those talents and become the type of player who can always show them off. Guzman has been doing that this summer in the Cape Cod Baseball League with the Chatham Anglers. He's been productive in a lot of different facets and will go back to the West Virginia University team, a better performer for it. Guzman was batting .311 with a .508 on-base percentage and .400 slugging percentage heading into Friday's games. His .908 OPS would have been one of the league leaders with the requisite at-bats. He scored 13 runs with 2 doubles, 1 triple, and 12 RBIs. He also has 16 walks and 11 stolen bases. That's a good summer resume. I wanted to make some swing adjustments that I've been wanting to make for a little bit, Guzman said of his Cape experience. I've been able to do that here at Chatham. In terms of the number and success right now, it's a part of the game. You're going to fail sometimes, you're going to succeed sometimes, but it's definitely been fun. Guzman has a good amount of speed. His stolen base totals bear that out. He can also hit for extra base and is comfortable anywhere in the lineup that you place him. Chatham coach Jay Powell, who stood in for Dennis Cook while he was away, sees plenty of potential for Guzman. One, he is an explosive baseball player, Powell said. One thing that's going to help Armani going forward is we've played him at center field some. If he can master the center field part of it, he'll be a really good player. He gets on base a ton. He's got some pop. He's not a big guy, but he's got some juice too. He's a doubles type, few home runs type guy. He's a productive player. He runs, he steals bases, he scores from first on a triple, stuff like that. Having guys like that is a true asset. Guzman points to getting ready and having yourself set to go as one of the real lessons of the experience, like a lot of the players who participate in the Cape League. Guzman hopes to take that back to West Virginia. I think just understanding what it takes from a preparation aspect is important, Guzman said. You won't always have coaches around you to push you like you do in college. Summer ball is kind of free range, a pro ball style lifestyle. I think bringing back to the other guys and understanding the work you need to put in will really help. Center field's a good position for someone of Guzman's skill set, as Powell said. Guzman is improving at it, and he keeps working on the finer points. Just being comfortable, understanding the jumps and everything about it, Guzman said. Just getting more reps there. That's the only way you can get better is practicing somewhere, and that's what I'm here doing. Chatham was right on the edge of clinching a playoff berth on Friday. The Anglers are the fourth-place team in the East Division, but they're still capable of making a playoff run. Powell hopes the Anglers have that in them. I think so. We pitch it pretty well, which has been pretty good. Our offense has been a little bit inconsistent, especially with guys on base, scoring, driving, and runners. But the last week, we've gotten a lot better. Some of that, these guys have made good adjustments. They've just been working about it. You've got to give those guys credit. They've put a lot of time and effort into this thing. The huge crew of scouts on hand want to see these players perform as individuals, but they also want to see which players help their teams win. Powell wants his players to perform in the postseason. I tell them all the time, if a scoreboard is turned on, we try to win the game, Powell said. What happens? You go through the motions, you say, it doesn't matter, it's just summer ball. You start getting in bad habits. Our first goal, I tell them when they get here, we want them to get better. We want to get them back to their college team healthy, and then we want to win some games. The other Cape Cod Baseball League story, the Saturday Roundup. The Harbor Hawks rally past Falmouth. Hyannis takes over first place in the West by Adam Kirkchin. The Hyannis Harbor Hawks just keep finding ways to win. The Harbor Hawks rallied past the Falmouth Commodores 4-3 in 8 innings Saturday in a shortened game. It marked the 6th straight win for the Harbor Hawks, who are 21-17, as they've overtaken first place in the West Division. Falmouth fell to 17-19-2. The game went to extra innings after the 7th inning, and Falmouth didn't score. In the 8th inning, Hyannis placed Matt Iniich of West Virginia at second base, and from there, Jax Jimenez of Oregon doubled in Iniich for the winning run. Jimenez went 3 for 4 with 1 run scored and 1 RBI for Hyannis. Teammate Andrew Lamb of Southern California went 2 for 3 with an RBI. Hyannis pitchers Ryan Bosch of Wake Forest, Bruce Littleton of Southern Mississippi, and Braden Sharp of Rice stood out. Bosch struck out 5 batters in 3 innings. Littleton allowed just 1 hit, and Sharp allowed 1 earned run but grabbed the win. He's 4-1. The Harbor Hawks broke through with 3 runs in the bottom of the 6th inning after being down 2-0. Clay Thompson of James Madison singled to right field to score 2 runs. Lamb then singled in Thompson to give the Harbor Hawks a 3-2 lead. Falmouth struck first in the top of the 2nd inning. A.J. Putty of Illinois doubled to right field to bring a run home. The Commodores added to their lead in the top of the 3rd inning when Dallas Brooks of Central Florida hit a solo home run to right field, his first of the summer. Austin Malley of Gateway Community College scored on a sacrifice fly for the Commodores in the top of the 7th inning to tie the score at 3. In other Cape Cod Baseball League action, it was the Cotuit Kettleers 15, the Hyannis Harbor Hawks 8. The Harbor Hawks, who are 21-18, saw their 6-game win streak come to an end at the hands of the Kettleers, who are 12-24-2. Cotuit's Landon Beaver went 3 for 4 with 3 runs and 3 RBIs. Hogan Denny of Indiana went 3 for 6 with 2 runs and 3 RBIs. Sam Christensen of Alabama went 2 for 5 with 1 run and 3 RBIs. Ryan Taransky of Cincinnati went 2 for 4 with 3 runs and 3 RBIs. And Will Platner of Alabama went 2 for 4 with 3 runs scored. A lot of threes in that one. A lot of 3 RBI games for 3 RBI guys for that in that game. In the game's first at-bat, Beaver homered to center field for his 4th of the summer. Taransky and Platner scored on a fielder's choice and an error in the top of the 2nd inning. Denny doubled in a run at the top of the 5th inning. Christensen then hit a 2-run home run, his first of the summer. Beaver doubled in another run in the top of the 6th inning. Taransky scored on a sacrifice bunt in the top of the 8th inning. Denny followed with a double to bring home 2 more runs for the Kettleers. Beaver scored on a sacrifice fly to increase the Cotuit lead, and Denny scored on a fielder's choice. Taransky then blasted a 3-run home run, his 2nd long ball of the summer. For Hyannis, Andrew Lamb of Southern California hit a solo home run in the bottom of the 5th inning, his 3rd of the summer. Nick Dromboski of Stony Brook then scored on a fielder's choice. Matt Aniech of West Virginia of the Harbor Hawks cleared the bases with a 3-run double in the bottom of the 6th inning. Hyannis's Henry Zenor of South Carolina Upstate drove in 2 runs with a single in the bottom of the 7th inning. Aniech scored on a wild pitch in the bottom of the 8th inning. It was the Harwich Mariners 5, the Bourne Braves 2. The Mariners, who were 20-18 on the season, opened with 4 runs in the top of the 1st inning and took down the Braves, who were 17-3 in 7 innings. The Harwich pitchers allowed 7 hits with 2 7th-inning runs. Thomas Mitchell of Elon, Christian Rodriguez of Florida, and Owen Wheeler of Maine pitched the 7 innings for the Mariners. Rodriguez went 3 innings and earned the win. He's 2-0. Mitchell, the starter, allowed 2 hits, 1 walk, and struck out 1. Wheeler went 2 innings and struck out 2 batters. Cade Kurland of Florida went 1 for 3 with 1 run and 3 RBIs. Sean O'Leary of UMass Lowell went 2 for 3 with 1 RBI. Colin Larson of BC, Boston College, went 2 for 3 with 1 run scored. Nico Brini of Wofford, Micah Rienstra-Kirikov of Kent State, and Tyler Smolinski of Kansas State each scored 1 run. Harwich struck right away in the top of the 1st inning. Kurland hit a 2-run double to left field. O'Leary then hit an RBI single. Kurland then came home on a fielder's choice to give the Mariners a 4-0 lead. Larson scored on a bases-loaded walk in the top of the 5th inning. Bourne scored in the bottom of the 7th inning. Matt Bolton of SUNY Binghamton hit a solo home run to center field, his 2nd long ball of the summer. Berkeley Mabius of Oregon added a run-scoring single later in the inning. Bolton went 2 for 2 with 1 run scored and 1 RBI. It was the Orleans Firebirds 5 and the Brewster Whitecaps 4. The Firebirds, who were 14-24 on the season, scored 3 late runs to overtake the Whitecaps, who were 25-11-3. For the Firebirds, Rowan Kelly of UC Santa Barbara went 3 for 5 with 1 run scored and 1 RBI. Dom Cadiz of UCLA went 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored and 2 RBIs. Casey Comiskey of Southern New Hampshire went 2 for 5 with 1 run scored and 1 RBI. The Firebirds scored in the top of the 3rd inning when Comiskey singled in a run. Cadiz hit a solo homer in the top of the 5th inning for his 6th of the summer. Kelly doubled to bring in another Orleans run in the top of the 8th inning. Kelly then scored on a fielder's choice. Comiskey scored on a fielder's choice in the top of the 9th inning to give the Firebirds back the lead for good. The Whitecaps scored in the bottom of the 3rd inning when Tristan McClatty of Clemson tripled in a run. McClatty struck again when he doubled in a run in the bottom of the 6th inning. Jacob Lee then hit a 2-run home run, his 7th of the summer, good for 2nd in the league this season. The Gatemen, it was the Wareham Gatemen 12 and the Falmouth Commodores 1. The Gatemen, who were 14-24, jumped out to a big early lead, and they never looked back in their win over the Commodores, who were 17-20-2. Connor Cuff of Louisiana Lafayette went 4 for 5 with 3 runs scored and 1 RBI. R.J. Hamilton of Duke went 1 for 5 with 2 runs scored and 2 RBIs. Chase Cruson of Rutgers went 2 for 3 with 2 runs scored. Cohen Nikolai of Arizona State went 2 for 4 with 1 run scored and 4 RBIs. Dylan Dubovic of Miami went 1 for 4 with 2 runs scored and 1 RBI. And A.J. Ashatino of Northeastern went 2 for 4 with 1 run scored and 1 RBI. Nicolay hit an RBI single in the top of the 1st inning for the Gatemen. Nicolay struck again, this time with a 3-run home run, his 6th of the season, in the top of the 3rd inning. Dubovic scored on a fielder's choice in the top of the 4th inning. Cuff followed with a run-scoring single, and Hamilton then scored on a fielder's choice. Hamilton homered to left field in the top of the 8th inning, his 3rd deep ball of the summer. Cuff scored on a fielder's choice later in the evening, and Dubovic singled home a run. Cruson stole home, then Ashatino hit an RBI single. Falmouth's A.J. Putty of Illinois hit a solo homer to left field in the bottom of the 4th inning for his 2nd of the summer. It was the Yarmouth-Dennis Red Sox 6, the Bourne Braves 4, a final in 10 innings. The Red Sox, who were 28-10-1, scored 3 runs in the 10th inning to hold off the Braves, who were 18-18-3. For Yarmouth-Dennis, Jace Tharnish of Kentucky went 2 for 3 with 1 run scored. Tommy Gooden of Vanderbilt went 3 for 5 with 1 run scored and 3 RBIs. Armando Bursano of Cal State Fullerton went 2 for 4 with 1 run scored. Ryder Robinson of Brigham Young went 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. Brock Kettleson of Stanford went 2 for 4 with 1 RBI. Gooden of the Red Sox hit a 2-run homer to left center field in the top of the first inning for his 5th of the summer. Kettleson drove in 1 run with 1 double in the top of the 7th inning. Gooden doubled in a run in the top of the 10th inning, and Robinson then hit a 2-run single for the Red Sox. Bourne's Matt Bolton of SUNY Binghamton hit a 2-run home run for his 3rd long ball of the summer. Austin Hawk of Wake Forest followed with a solo home run, his 1st of the season. Bryce Estep of Coastal Carolina doubled in a Bourne run in the bottom of the 10th inning. It was the Chatham Anglers 7, the Harwich Mariners 2. The Anglers, who were 17-18-3, had contributions up and down the lineup to beat the Mariners, who were 20-19. For the Anglers, Armani Guzman of West Virginia went 2 for 5 with a run scored and 1 RBI. Aiden Eshelman of Texas San Antonio went 2 for 3 with 2 runs scored. Chatham's Kyle England of Lubbock Christian earned the win. He's 2-0 on the season, with 2 innings of hitless work with 1 walk and 1 strikeout. Tyler Howe of North Carolina had an RBI double for Chatham in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Chatham's Jamie Paul Meese of East Tennessee State had another run-scoring double in the bottom of the 5th inning. Guzman hit an RBI single in the bottom of the 7th inning. Everett Marshall of Samford followed up with a 2-run double. Ty Peoples of Georgia then blasted a 2-run home run, his 2nd big fly of the summer. Nico Brini of Wofford scored on a sacrifice fly in the top of the 1st inning for the Mariners. Harwich's Micah Rienstra Kirikov of Kent State hit a solo home run to right field in the top of the 5th inning. And that's your Cape Cod Baseball League roundup for the weekend. And we're a few minutes past the midway portion of our reading today. Regular listeners know that it's at this stage that we move to a different kind of local news, and we'll complete our local news today with the obituaries and death notices that are listed in today's Cape Cod Times of August 3rd. There are 2 obituaries. The first is of Robert Joseph Powers of Naples, Florida, who at the age of 84 passed on July 15th at the McCarthy Care Center in East Sandwich, Massachusetts. He was born in Providence, Rhode Island in 1941 and graduated from Rhode Island College with a master's degree in special education. He devoted his career to improving educational opportunities for children with special needs. His work included teaching at Cumberland High School, directing Project Class, leading early childhood education programs, serving on the Rhode Island Permanent Committee under Governor Noel, testifying before Congress on early childhood programs, and serving for 12 years on the Cumberland School Committee. After moving to Cotuit, Bob served on the Cotuit Library Board and was a member of the Osterville Men's Investment Club. He enjoyed skiing, golf, sailing his Sea Sprite Nimble, architecture, the stock market, and driving his cherished Porsche Boxster. His favorite motto was, "Just have to have fun." Bob will be remembered for his warm smile, quick sense of humor, love of family and friends, Irish music, and his daily greetings from the bench in front of the Cotuit Coop, where he often admired his Porsche parked across the street and wished everyone a good morning. He is survived by his beloved wife of 62 years, Ronnie, and many family and friends. Relatives and friends are kindly invited to a Mass of Christian burial on Tuesday, August 11th at 11 a.m. at St. Joan of Arc Church, 3357 Mendon Road in Cumberland, Rhode Island. The burial will be private. A visitation will be held prior to the Mass from 9 to 10:30 a.m. at the O'Neill Funeral Home, 3102 Mendon Road in Cumberland, Rhode Island. In lieu of flowers, any memorial donations may be made to the American Lung Association, Donation Processing Center, P.O. Box 70360, Philadelphia, PA 19176. The other obituary is of Gail Marcella of Harwich, who at the age of 74 passed peacefully at home July 19th in the presence of her loving husband, Bill. Born January 2, 1952 in Boston, Gail lived a life defined by love for her family and service to others. She was preceded in death by her parents. Gail was raised in Marshfield, Massachusetts, overlooking Hummerock Beach, where she relished the chaos of a large family and delighted in playing practical jokes on her parents and siblings. After graduating from Marshfield High School and living on the South Shore, she eventually made her home in Harwich, where she enjoyed the beauty and tranquility of Cape Cod. She cherished time with family, and especially summers spent with her children and loved ones at the Harwich beaches and Long Pond. Gail worked as a visiting nurse, a home health aide, and residential caregiver, including with Cape Abilities, where she developed special bonds with so many in her care. Gail was a dedicated mother who loved watching her children play sports and was always willing to help with homework or other projects. She also embraced the many pets her family collected over the years, from hermit crabs and guinea pigs to hamsters, cats, and dogs. One of Gail's greatest joys was walking on the beach, collecting sea glass to take home to her grandkids, or sharing treasured finds with others right there on Pleasant Road Beach. She'll be deeply missed and lovingly remembered by her family, friends, neighbors, and all who knew her. She is survived by her husband, Bill Marcella, and many family and friends. A celebration of Gail's life will be held Wednesday, August 5th, that's this coming Wednesday, at 2 p.m. in the Don Beal and Ames Funeral Home at 260 Main Street, Route 28, in West Harwich. In lieu of flowers, please consider donating to the Harwich Conservation Trust in Gail's memory. May her memory bring comfort to all who knew and loved her. And that concludes the obituaries and death notices listed in today's Cape Cod Times. Now we'll head back to the front page of today's Cape Cod Times of August 3rd. Move to the national and international news. Tariff provisions could sink Russia sanctions. A bill would set precedent for secondary duties, by Andrea Shalal and Patricia Zengerli of Reuters in Washington. A Russia sanctions bill, championed by the late Senator Lindsey Graham, faces a tough road in Congress as Democrats and some Republicans raise concerns about new trade powers the legislation would grant President Donald Trump. Many Democrats, some Republicans, and industry trade groups are unhappy about a provision in the long-stalled bill that would let Trump impose steep tariffs on countries that purchase large amounts of Russian oil and gas, or countries that his administration deems to be facilitating sanctions evasion. The bill would impose sanctions on Russian officials and authorize 100% tariffs on the 5 largest importers of Russian crude oil or gas, or the 5 top countries that help Moscow evade U.S. sanctions and keep funding its war against Ukraine, now in its 5th year. Those countries aren't mentioned in the bill, but would likely include China, India, and potentially some European countries and Japan. Graham, who died suddenly in July, pressed for the bill's passage for over a year, but only in the past weeks secured support from Trump, as the Republican president grew more confident in Ukraine and more frustrated with Moscow. The tariff provisions became more important to the White House after the U.S. Supreme Court in February struck down Trump's reciprocal tariffs of 10 to 50% that were imposed last year, which sent the administration scrambling to find new authorities. The sanctions bill would also allow the president to waive the Russia sanctions for unspecified national security reasons, a provision that pro-Ukraine Democrats oppose, given Trump's shifting views on Russia and Ukraine. The bill would also extend for 5 years Iran energy and weapons sanctions that were first enacted in 1996 that are due to expire this year, a measure added as a condition of Trump's support. Trump last week demanded that the bill also include tariffs on Iran, although trade between the U.S. and Iran is virtually nil. With polls showing that Democrats could win control of the House and possibly the Senate in November's midterm elections, some lawmakers say they would prefer to wait to pass Russia sanctions until Democrats have more influence over what many see as unprecedented legislation. The legislation advanced with overwhelming bipartisan support for procedural votes in the U.S. Senate on July 28th and 29th, with lawmakers calling it a tribute to Graham. Congressional aides said it could well pass the full Senate before senators head home to their districts this week. But the legislation, renamed in Graham's honor, faces bigger challenges in the House of Representatives, which is in recess until August 31st. Already some senior Democrats have lined up to oppose the sanctions bill. Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon and Representative Richard Neal of Massachusetts, the top Democrats on the respective Senate and House trade committees, have blasted the bill for granting Trump new tariff powers that they say could fuel U.S. inflation. There is no question that the U.S. government must take stronger action against purchasers of Russian energy who are fueling the unjustifiable war against Ukraine, they said in a joint statement. But the latest draft of the Sanctioning Russia Act is a prescription for bedlam and higher tariffs. The legislation is also driving concern among some Republicans. Mayur Patel, a former Republican congressional aide now with the Hogan Lovells Cadwalader law firm, said he doubted the legislation could pass the House this year, given the coming election season and lingering Republican skepticism about the breadth of Trump's tariffs thus far. Patel said many Republicans in Congress remained uneasy about Trump's previous sweeping tariffs, and some were actively lobbying for specific exemptions, such as the one recently granted that offers temporary relief for phosphate fertilizer from Morocco to avert a shortfall caused by the Iran war. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, the sole Republican to vote against the bill on July 28th, has said that he'll offer an amendment to put limits on the tariffs Trump can impose, and others may follow suit. Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S., Ola Stefanishyna, on July 30th said Ukraine needs quick action before the coming winter. You know very well that tariffs are a partisan issue at this point, so we hope it will not distract everyone from the real intention with the law, she told an event that was hosted by the Christian Science Monitor. Beyond concerns that the bill could raise inflation at home, sanctions and tariff experts say it would give presidents a new ability to target countries through secondary tariffs instead of just sanctioning individuals and entities found to be aiding sanctions evasion. The bill calls for those authorities to expire in 5 years, but experts note that governments seldom yield back powers once held. The expanded tariff power could upend functioning multilateral cooperation, including the 40-plus nation U.S.-led coalition that imposed sanctions on Russia after its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, one Western diplomat said. Backers of the bill argue the sunset clause narrows the tariff language enough to hit Russian energy revenues without negative consequences. Jess Hoverson, a former senior U.S. government official and now chief economist at the developer platform bank Column, said the bill, if passed, would create a kind of sledgehammer that could target entire bilateral economic relationships. Secondary tariffs, as designed in this bill, would function as a much blunter instrument that could apply across-the-board duties to all goods from a country based on its energy trade with Russia or its role in sanctions evasion, Hoverson said. Final story on the front page of today's Cape Cod Times, U.S. to make Visa bond program permanent, by Kanishka Singh of Reuters in Washington. The U.S. State Department will make permanent a Visa bond program that could require applicants from 50 countries, mostly in Africa, to post bonds of up to $20,000 when seeking U.S. visas, according to a federal notice that was posted online on July 31st. The Federal Register notice applies to B1 and B2 visas, which are issued for business and tourism travel. Consular officers may require covered non-immigrant visa applicants to post a bond of up to $20,000 as a condition of visa issuance, as determined by the consular officers, the notice said. The 2025 visa bond pilot, which provided a framework for the Department of State, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of the Treasury to assess the feasibility of administering a visa bond program, has provided sufficient data to suggest that a visa bond program is an effective tool for enforcing compliance among bonded visa holders. In the pilot program, consular officers could receive or require bonds of $5,000, $10,000, or up to $15,000. The final rule eliminates the $5,000 option and raises the maximum bond to $20,000. The final rule goes into effect August 3rd, today, when it is scheduled for publication in the Federal Register. In the list of 50 countries for whose citizens this program applies, 30 are from Africa. From the analysis section of the Times today, it's on page 2, Stevens goes viral in Michigan race. Moderate Dem is running against a progressive rival, by Jay Stahl of USA Today. Representative Haley Stevens, a moderate Democrat from suburban Detroit, is an unlikely candidate for social media stardom. But she struck online gold when she campaigned on July 18th against progressive opponent Abdul El-Sayed ahead of Michigan's hard-fought August 4th Democratic Senate primary. "I'm going to be telling the stories on our behalf," she told the crowd in Ecorse, a small suburb of Detroit with a majority black population. While thrusting her balled-up fists forward, Stevens told the audience, "And you better believe I'm going to be doing it with a little bit of joy, a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of energy." And Stevens said, punching her right fist to her left palm 4 times, "A little bit of stick it to 'em." A clip of the speech, originally filmed by C-SPAN, garnered 5 million views on X, fueling both mockery and admiration for Stevens' upbeat demeanor. When sharing the clip, the Republican National Committee said Michiganders would have to choose between El-Sayed, who campaigned with controversial political commentator Hassan Piker, and whatever Haley Stevens is doing. A subsequent TMZ video about the clip notched over 4.5 million views on the same platform. Meghan McCain, the daughter of former Republican Senator John McCain and former co-host of The View, joked, "How is this not a character from Parks and Rec?" But also praised Stevens for clear messaging. Chris Cillizza, a former CNN commentator, called it weirdly endearing. While Stevens is a rare establishment Democrat generating online excitement, the race may test whether her viral moments can compete with the cyber-savvy pro-Palestinian progressives, who already have notched upset wins in congressional primaries from New York to Colorado. I don't think anyone's brought up the internet stuff today as I've been campaigning through Detroit, and I'm not trying to say it doesn't exist, Stevens told USA Today on July 26th. It's one arena, but the arena where this election is going to be won are in the Michigan zip codes and getting Michiganders out to vote. But Stevens' campaign seized on the buzz, seemingly realizing how the power of a viral, personality-driven moment could help her compete with El-Sayed, whose campaign has been powered by an army of online progressive activists and donors. El-Sayed's campaign has produced content in the same vein as New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, who used playful videos to boost his path from unlikely contender to frontrunner against former Governor Andrew Cuomo in the city's 2025 mayoral race. The Stevens campaign produced "Stick It to 'em" yard signs and released an ad using audio from the talk. Stevens lags behind in key polls, including an Emerson College poll released July 30th that shows El-Sayed up by 16 points. In response to the backlash, Stevens has repeatedly told outlets she's being authentically Michigan and authentically herself. The viral moment and her race against El Sayed revives age-old questions about whether women are held to unfair standards about public behavior after the first two women nominated for president, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and former Vice President Kamala Harris, were defeated by President Donald Trump in 2016 and 2024, respectively. Democratic strategist Tara Hoops said the narrative around Democratic candidates, especially within the party's establishment, is that they're typically empty suits who often fail to connect with voters. Any video that's going to humanize them in any way is definitely going to help, Hoops said. The Democratic primary seemingly hinges on which contender can present themselves to voters as an authentic Michigander. Ever since launching her successful 2018 campaign to defeat then-Representative David Trott, a two-term Republican, Stevens has stressed her work on President Barack Obama's auto bailout, which rescued the state's economy during the Great Recession. El Sayed, who became a podcast host after losing to Governor Gretchen Whitmer in a primary in 2018, boasted in his campaign announcement video about his typical Midwestern upbringing. He scooped ice cream, was captain of his high school football team, loved his Camaro, and played club lacrosse at the University of Michigan. Michael Sorazio, a Boston College communication professor, said the concept of authenticity is subjective in American politics. What we have to always keep in mind is that authenticity can be faked, and so these moments, people desire it deeply, Sorazio said, and it can be real at times, but it can also be faked as well. The Stick It To 'Em video attracted criticism of Stevens' distinctive Midwestern accent and comments about her wardrobe. In response, El Sayed defended his opponent. It's become impossible to ignore the way that people online make fun of my opponent for things that have nothing to do with their policies or politics. It's unkind and it's unhelpful. If you support me, please stop, El Sayed wrote on X before accusing Stevens of being bought by special interests. We don't need to be unkind, to be honest. Claremont McKenna College professor Lily Geismer, an expert on Democratic politics, said women are often viewed as inauthentic. Anything that seems folksy, Geismer said, often backfires. Hillary Clinton is so the quintessential example of that, Geismer said. Sorazio also pointed to critics of former Alaska Republican Governor Sarah Palin's voice after she was named John McCain's running mate in 2008. The normal voice that we tend to hear in politics is a masculine one, so a feminine voice that comes into that space is going to be perceived with suspicion because it operates against the backdrop of that historic imbalance of representation, Cesario said. Our final story, in the Cape Cod Times of August 3rd, accusers say the Blanche meeting was combative. Women asked the acting AG if he had read the Epstein files, by Aaron Mansfield of USA Today. When a group of Jeffrey Epstein's accusers found out that they could finally meet with Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, they hatched a plan. They prepared for a tense but businesslike meeting, where they'd asked the Justice Department to pursue new leads on Epstein's associates and confront the government on disclosing their identities when it published batches of investigative files. What we were met with was, when I recall it in my brain, jaw-dropping to me, said Liz Stein, a 53-year-old human trafficking specialist from Philadelphia who says Epstein abused her. We walked out there feeling emotionally exhausted and really dehumanized. In exclusive interviews with USA Today, 3 of the women in the meeting said Blanche, President Donald Trump's nominee for Attorney General, was combative and dismissive. And after they pressed him about whether he was familiar with the documents the Justice Department released, they all came to the same conclusion. Blanche hadn't read the Epstein files. The women's comments come as Blanche's domination hangs in the balance due to unrelated concerns about him. Senators Tom Tillis of North Carolina and John Cornyn of Texas, 2 Senate Judiciary Committee Republicans, have stalled his nomination as they fight with Trump over the terms of a controversial settlement deal with the IRS. Tillis told Blanche on July 16th that he would only vote to confirm him if Blanche met with Epstein's accusers, a request that came minutes after Danny Bensky testified that she and other Epstein survivors had been trying fruitlessly for a face-to-face with him. The DOJ announced the meeting the same day. USA Today reached out to the Justice Department multiple times regarding details of the July 16th meeting. The department referred USA Today to a statement by Alessandra Serrano, the Trafficking and Child Exploitation Coordinator. Serrano said Blanche attempted to address all of the women's questions and added that the Justice Department is determined to bring justice for all victims of human trafficking and sex crimes. Bensky, a teacher from Hawaii, said the day she met with Blanche on July 16th was already intense because she also testified against him at his confirmation hearing. She said someone from the Justice Department first offered her a staff meeting. Later, she said they offered a meeting with Blanche. She said she and a handful of other Epstein accusers who live in the U.S. attended, and so did family members of the late Virginia Roberts Giuffre, the most outspoken and well-known Epstein survivor. She said Blanche brought Serrano, other staffers, and another man from the FBI. She also said the women's lawyers joined via a video call. Bensky said Blanche responded to the women's questions with defensive semantic arguments, didn't commit to investigating any of the leads they provided about Epstein associates. She said the tone of the meeting came across as Blanche asking the women to get to their point. I feel like he was acting like a defense attorney, Bensky said of Blanche, who previously served as Trump's personal lawyer in multiple criminal cases. That's at the core of what survivors have been feeling, is that he'll always protect his own and the administration's reputational harm. Serrano said in a statement that Blanche was direct with survivors about how the criminal investigation process works and what was required to build and pursue a criminal case, including meeting with an FBI agent. Serrano said there were FBI agents in the room ready to follow up with them on their cases, and every survivor in attendance was given direct contact information for a senior DOJ leader. Lara Bloom McGee, 47, of Arkansas, another accuser who was in the room, said the women had already gone to the FBI to report Epstein's conduct. She referenced Maria Farmer's 1996 complaint to the FBI alleging that Epstein moved child sexual abuse material from Ohio to New York. She said Blanche effectively disregarded what they had already done. He told us to go back to the FBI and start all over again. And with that, we've come to the end of our reading of the Cape Cod Times for today, Monday, August 3rd of 2026. This is your reader, Eric, saying be well, be safe, look after each other, and remember our veterans, especially those we've lost recently. Bye for now.